Hey there. We're Facebook Living. Hope you're all doing good. I'm doing good. I've got a lot of windows open in front of me, so my eyes are going to be moving all around. We've got a lot to talk about. So I'm excited to do this. Wait a couple seconds for a few more people to jump on. All right, move that. Looks like everything is in place. All right. As I'm talking, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them down in the comments below, and I will either answer them while we're doing this, or we can get back to them later on today if I don't see it. All right. Cool. Let's get rolling, shall we? You may have seen that there is a lot of emphasis on prayer happening around the Nazarene Church. We're excited about that, and we're excited to join in to that movement. Just a few examples. The Holiness Today for March and April is all dedicated to prayer. Check that out. Along with a prayer journal, there's a movement to get 500 million people in prayer, and there's a prayer journal for May and April. Maybe you've seen that floating around. There's also a new book by Michael Lodahl. Pushed the wrong button. By Michael Lodahl for adults there, called Praying with Jesus, and that is going to be our inspiration for the resources we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about two primary resources for kids. We're going to talk about a downloadable resource called Praying with Jesus. It's a 6-week children's church curriculum that you can use, and it is packed full of materials. I'm going to jump into that in a little bit. And we're also going to talk a little bit about a book called Praying with Jesus that also mirrors kind of the approach that Dr. Lodahl took in his book, Praying with Jesus. So those are the two things we're going to talk about. Cha-ching. Cool. All right. I got so many samples sitting in my desk. I will try not to get too distracted. All right. Sean's on there. Sherry, good to see y'all. What's up? I think I'm a little delayed on my comments. They're just popping up. Cool. All right. All these pop-up comments are great for guys with ADHD. This is super cool. All right. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about the Praying with Jesus Children's Ministry downloadable resource first. I love this resource. It was created by Julie Stevens, a children's pastor in Lenexa, Kansas. It is outstanding. And in case you're new to the idea of prayer stations, this 6-week children's church curriculum is focused on using prayer station as part of children's worship experience. Some of you may have used prayer stations, been using them for years and years and years. Some of you may have never used them at all. So if you've never used them and you have no idea what that means or what they are, you may be a little intimidated. It might sound like a little bit too much that you can do, but let me assure you, it is worth it. It is an incredible experience. I've personally used prayer stations many times. I've used them at retreats. I've used them at camps. I've used them on Sunday morning during children's worship service. Used them for all types of different situations. And so you can too. And everything is laid out in this curriculum. It's step by step. We're there for you. All kinds of ideas and stuff. One of the things I love about prayer stations is they really allow kids to engage with the Lord and in prayer on their own time frame. They can spend as much time as they need at a certain station. They can engage in different types of learning styles, different types of methods they can interact with each station. There's always something for each and every kid. It allows them to engage in prayer. So it's more than just hearing a sermon about prayer or hearing a lesson about prayer, but they actually get to spend time in prayer and different types of prayer. It's a way to make prayer more easily accessible for kids, kind of give them a new way to think about prayer. A lot of time kids just think of prayer as either something they do before bed or something they do before they eat, or they think about prayer as that really long time during the service where everyone closes their eyes and they try not to fall asleep. So this using prayer stations kind of helps kids see a new way to communicate with God and to interact with God on their own level and in their own timing. It's a great experience. So, and it can be used for small groups and large groups. Like I said, I've seen this done at children's camps where there's 400 kids and there's 30 kids coming in at a time to use the prayer stations. This can also be done with a group of 2 or 3 kids. So whether you're a small church or a large church, this resource can help you. So that's kind of the super quick Cliff Notes version of prayer stations and what they are. And in this resource, there's also Julie writes kind of her testimony of how she got on to prayer stations and how her mind was kind of changed about that. And at first it seemed intimidating and too much, but once she got into it, she just embraced it and loved it, and it's been a part of her ministry for 10 plus years. So I think you'll enjoy just kind of reading that personal testimony from Julie. It's super cool. So that's part of the resource. All right, so let's break down what actually comes in the resource, shall we? All right. So there are, whoa, my camera fell. There are 7 main resources that comes with the downloadable resource. There's 7 different components right here. You'll get a user guide, which kind of walks through all the resources, kind of tells you how to use each of the different things. User guide, the Children's Church sermon outlines and prayer stations. So that's the bulk of what this is, a sermon outline, and then 7 or 8 prayer stations that you can use each week and pick and choose from. So you get those. You also get family worship experiences, and we'll talk about those. Then the other component is a scripture art journal that kids will do at home. Then there are social media posts, ways that you can engage in discussion with your families on social media during the week in between Sundays. And then there provide graphics that you can use to project up on the screen. We'll talk a little bit about those a little bit later. And finally, one of the things I'm really excited about is there's a worship song music video. That's amazing. It's super cool, and we'll show a piece of that here this morning as well. So those are the 7 components. Let me walk through those really quick. I said there's a user guide. Don't need to walk through that too much because that's kind of self-explanatory. It tells you how to use everything and goes through everything. The second big component is the Children's Church outlines and the prayer stations themselves. Let's see. What those things do is it kind of tells you how to facilitate prayer stations, kind of gives you ideas. Let's say you have a group of 3 or 4 kids and you want to use prayer stations with those. It kind of gives you ideas of how you can set those up and how many prayer stations to use and how to work through those prayer stations. Or if you have a group of 30 or 40 kids, kind of helps you figure out how to do that. And like I said, this is super flexible. It's one of the reasons I love this resource. You can set up 5 prayer stations, and if you have 2 or 3 kids, you can go through and spend 5 minutes at each station just all together, so everyone's moving at the same time. Or you can give kids the freedom to move between prayer stations, so they can spend 7 minutes at one station over here and 2 minutes at this station over there, and they can move back and forth on their own. So there's a lot of different ways to break this up. And each week includes, like I said, an outline, that kind of a sermon outline, so you can open the service with it's about a 5 or 10 minute message where you introduce the topic of prayer. And it moves through prayer by breaking down the Lord's Prayer. So it breaks up the Lord's Prayer into 6 different parts, and each week covers a different part of that Lord's Prayer. So after that kind of opening message of 5 or 10 minutes, give instructions on how to use the prayer stations, and then kids will go to those prayer stations. And so each week you get all kinds of resources on how to execute and run those prayer stations. Woo, see all those? See all those? Nice. So like I said, each week there's about 7 or 8 different prayer stations. The way it's set up is there's 3 prayer stations that they recommend, that Julie recommends that you have just set up throughout each of the 6 weeks. And then you can pick, there's about 5 other prayer stations. You can pick 2 or 3, or you can use all 5. And those prayer stations will change. Those will be new each week. So you got 3 that are always there for the full 6 weeks. And then you have another set of rotating prayer stations that come in and are unique each week. That way, The ones that are there each week, kids know how to use them. There are activities that can be repeated, so it's not necessarily something you come to and they get bored and they say, oh, I did this the last 2 weeks, I don't want to do this one again. There are activities that can be repeated, and so kids can just walk up there. There's no learning curve. They can just engage in that prayer station and keep moving. But then there's also, like I said, the rotating prayer station. So each week there's always going to be something new that they can experience and learn with. So you get those, and the prayer stations. What is a prayer station? So it's basically, you can think about it as kind of like a learning center or an activity center, a place where they come, and it's a space. It can be on a small table. It can be on the floor, like in the corner of a room. It can be just like around a chair. If you have just big, giant 8-foot tables, you can kind of section those off into one at a time, or you can use one big 8-foot table for each station. There's ideas in there, again, on how to use those. And some of the stations are as simple as holding a piece of Play-Doh and working that in your hands as you say a simple prayer, or molding it into something that it gives them ideas of things for the kids to mold them into. So it can be something as simple as that. All you need to do is grab some Play-Doh and put it at a station. It can be sometimes the prayer stations activities. They'll go to the prayer station for one of them, and you'll find these at each prayer station, and the kids will put a blank piece of paper over it, and they'll trace the picture of Jesus as they're saying a simple prayer, or as they're reflecting on prayer and on Jesus and who he is. One of the ones I think is pretty cool is you have mirrors set up. It can be like a little handheld mirror, or even a big tall mirror that you sit up. And the instructions at the prayer station tell the kids to write a word on the mirror using like a dry erase marker that reflects the character of Jesus. And so as that mirror fills up with different words, kids get to look into the mirror, write on there, but then they see themselves and they see those words that reflect the character of Jesus, those words kind of imprinted on their own bodies. And just an example of how we reflect the character of Jesus. Super simple, not hard to set up, and you can see how that can be a pretty powerful experience for a kid. So those are some kind of just a few of the examples. And like I said, altogether over 6 weeks, there's about 50 different prayer stations. So there's a lot of variety. Sometimes there's something that the kids will make and take home. Sometimes it's just something they will do and leave there. Sometimes it's something they'll write, or sometimes it's just something that they'll look at. So there's all kinds of different things, and they can pick and choose, and you can pick and choose which ones you want to use, and you can adapt them for the resources you have. So you'll get all of those, and there's 6 weeks. Let's see if I'm forgetting anything over here with my notes. And in that, it includes everything that you'll need. Well, just about. You can't download Play-Doh, so that sort of thing you have to get on your own. But if there's something in this prayer station, like the tracing a picture of Jesus, so we provide, the picture of Jesus that it talks about. And one of actually, it's something that you'll do in the first week of the sermon. You'll suggested that you send kids home with their own kind of Play-Doh. And then it says on there's a little label. It says, God, you are the potter, I am the clay. I trust you with my life. Please mold me and shape me into the disciple you want me to be. And so we provide those little labels. So you can just print those out and cut them out and stick them on your Play-Doh if you want to use that. So any of those types of things that have to be cut out ahead of time, we provide those. If it can be downloaded, we probably provided it in this resource. So that's super cool. We also give you signs for each station. So if you have 5 stations set up around your room, there's a little sign that you can hang up at each station. Print that, so you don't have to worry about coming up with a fancy sign and putting the instructions on there. So each sign has the title of the prayer station and some brief instructions. And then some of the prayer stations have a Bible verse that they will read as part of the activity. And so if that is on there, then that will also be on the sign. So you get signs as well. Super cool. Let's see. All right, got that. Resources, signs. Okay, cool. Looking good. Looking at some of the Linda's here. Looking at some of the names coming in. Tiffany, Noyce, Wichita, Tennessee, Texas. Super cool. See the link there for the Praying with Jesus resources. Nice work. Super cool. All right. So first two, you get a user guide. You get the prayer station and the children's church content. Like I said, that's the bulk. Those are the two big pieces that you get. First two big pieces that you get with this resource. Number three, you get family worship experiences. These are really great. These can be used. Pull out my sample here. All right. So these can be used at home. So you can send these home with kids and they can do them with their family at home. It's kind of a family devotional. Or it's something that can be used in an actual service. So if your kids and adults are worshiping together, you can print, if you print it out front and back, then these can just be given to the kids as they go into service. And then as they can just work on these as they're sitting there with their parents during the service. And each of those is just one page, front and back, which I didn't do it, so you have to print as little as possible. And also these, everything is on here. There's a couple resources you might want to use that are used for each of the 6 weeks, like a little scratch pad. You know, those things where you scratch off and there's colorful lines or colorful picture or colorful colors behind. So it's like black and you scratch it off and to reveal the color. Those types of things are used multiple times. So if you want to buy 5 or 6 or 7 of those, stash of those, they can be used in here. But other than that sort of thing, these can just be printed and handed out, and kids can work on these during the service. Because as part of all these different prayer things, it's hopefully your church is doing a prayer emphasis with your adults too. So as the adults are worshiping and learning about prayer and exploring the Lord's Prayer, maybe even they're reading that book, your kids and you can be going through the same experience with them. So you get that family worship experience. You can send it home or it can be used in service. So there are 6 of those. That's the third one. The fourth one is, the Scripture Art Journal. So you also get some instructions for kids to kind of create their own prayer journal at home. They'll just grab like a spiral notebook. And this has something simple, a verse, and a very simple activity or something for them to think about or a question for them to ask or a picture for them to draw, just something to help them reflect on prayer. And all these echo the things you talked about the previous week. So if you started out with the week 3 here is exploring this section of Lord's Prayer, Your Kingdom Come. And so after you've done that on a Sunday, these 7 kind of reflective activities that kids can do on their own afterwards at home to kind of get in that habit of praying throughout the week. So you get those 7 for each week. So you get a set of 6 of those. Scripture Art Journals. You also get social media posts. So if you've got a group with all your families on social media or your church page, Facebook page or whatever, there's ideas for discussion starters. There they are. Through the week that you can just go on there and throw a quick discussion idea on there. Questions that reflect back on what they talked about Sunday, that sort of thing, or something to get ready for the upcoming lesson on Sunday. So you get those 6 weeks worth of those. You also get graphics that you can project up on your screen. Let's see. And those are, let's see here if I can share something. I'll do that later. All right, so you get graphics, and those are, it's basically like a recreation of the sign. So like one of the ways to do prayer stations is if everyone in the room is going to be doing the same prayer station at the same time. So when it's time that you're doing the mold me and shape me prayer station, you can throw this graphic up on the screen so that everyone can see the instructions and what to do there. And then everyone in the room is doing the same thing. Then you can switch to the next graphic with a different sign. So it's kind of like signs for your TV if you're doing the method where everyone's doing the same thing at the same time. It also has some of the basic background graphics. It has the Praying with Jesus logo. So if you want to have anything that you want to customize on your own, it has that starburst. See this little blue background. You get a blank one of those. So if you want to create your own kind of graphics for social media or something you're creating in-house, you can have some of the artwork that goes along with the Praying with Jesus resources. So you get that sort of stuff. Let's see, covered that. Super cool. All right, I'm scrolling through here to see if there's any questions that I missed that I want to hit or show up while I'm talking about that. What is the name of the book? Looks like, yep, got that one answered, Praying with Jesus. There's also one for youth as well. Praying with Jesus, similar type of thing, but written for teenagers. Cool. All right. Wow, it's been 21 minutes already. I feel like I'm talking super fast. All right, so that is the 6th resource, and the 7th is the prayer. There's a worship prayer song, and the lyrics of the song are the Lord's Prayer. So this is an awesome thing that you can use to help kids learn the Lord's Prayer. You can also sing it as part of your service. You can play it in the background as kids are going to the different prayer stations, just playing quietly in the background. It's an original song. You'll love it. I was going to share, there's a sample of it that you can see on our website, and you get that. You get the whole song as well. It goes through the Lord's Prayer 3 different times. I was going to try to share it, but my tabs are all in different places than they were before, so I will try to post that later, and you can see the sample of that worship song if I don't find it while I'm just talking. Ideal ages for this resource is, someone asked that. Would say about probably elementary. You could probably do it with kindergartners. One of the biggest things with prayer stations is I have used it with kids as young as 1st grade, just personally. I think I've seen other people use it with kindergartners. At first glance, if you've never used prayer stations and someone says kids have the freedom to move around and go to different stations that they like to, that might seem like chaos. But as you introduce the stations and as you've gone through the service and by the time and you've explained the expectations and what's going to happen, it goes incredibly smoothly, especially if you have quiet music playing in the background that kind of helps kids focus their attention and calm themselves. And like I said, there's other ways to do it if you don't necessarily want kids moving all at the same time. You can have a small group leader with each group of kids, and you can kind of rotate prayer stations like every 5 minutes. You give a signal and the group will move to the next station and then the next one, that sort of way. So there are different ways to organize it based on your needs and the age level of your kids. But probably around 1st grade in general. And really, you could go up to 6th grade, and I just say that because this is the Foundry kids. You could really use these resources and these prayer stations for 7th, 8th, 9th graders. I mean, most of the activities are things that I would do. So not super complex, but also something that can engage a lot of different ages. So, all right, what else was I going to talk about? Got my little prayer, Lord's Prayer. All right, the other is this book. All right, so you've got the Michael Lodahl book, Praying with Jesus, and then there's one for the youth that I don't have a sample of, so imagine it here. And then you have this one. And it breaks down the Lord's Prayer into 6 different segments of the Lord's Prayer and talks about each one. And so that's what we did with this Praying with Jesus book. I love the way this book turned out. It's full of color. It's about 30 pages long. And like I said, there are 6 primary sections. There's an introductory section, and then there's 6 parts that break down each part of the Lord's Prayer. It's written in a very conversational manner. So it's very kind of relaxed, not super formal. There's places where the kids can write in the book and do activities or do different things in the book. At the end of each section, there's 3 different activities suggested where the kids pick one and kind of they use that as kind of their own way to reflect on what they've just read. Either draw a picture or write certain words or think about an important thing that they want to remember. Each chapter is, like this one's 2 pages. That's it. And the very next page is where they start writing their own reflection time. And so this can also, if all your adults are getting this, it might be cool to give all the kids this so they have something while their mom and dad are reading this, or grandma and grandpa or uncle or aunt are reading this. The kids can be reading this at the same time. If I were doing this, you could also use this at the same time as you're using the prayer stations. So you start your prayer emphasis in your 6 weeks, and week 1, you finish the prayer stations, and before all the kids leave, you give them one of these, and they just work through it one section at a time. So you can do that if you want to. But like I said, there's also other resources that you can do for kids to do at home during the week. One of the things I think would be super cool is at the end of your 6-week emphasis on the Lord's Prayer, and at the end of going through these times of prayer stations, then you could give this as gift it to every child, and then they can take this home as a way to remind them as they move on. So now that this big prayer emphasis and all the prayer stations are over, they can have this to take home with them and continue their study as it goes a little in more, continues to explore more the Lord's Prayer and how to pray and what prayer means and what prayer can be for them. So it might be super cool to give these to kids at the end of this 6-week session. These are $4.99 for one, or you can get 5 packs of 5 for $19.99. It's like $4 a pop. Super cool. And at the back, it's kind of the Lord's Prayer written out there. And then kids can rip this, tear this out, or cut this out, put that in their desk at school, hang it on their door at home. If they have a locker at school, hang it up on their mirror in their bathroom, stick it on the fridge. So the Lord's Prayer is always there in front of them. All right. Let me see. Yes, the Praying with Jesus booklet is similar to the My Baptism Story. It's the same. It's similar in that it's the same length, same size, all that kind of stuff. The other 2 books have like a leader piece, or at least My Relationship has something like a downloadable leader piece. This is more something you do on your own. So it's not necessarily meant to be used in like a mentoring type of thing. Just something that kids can read on their own and study on their own. You could use it for something like that, like a small group if you wanted to. Because there are reflection questions in here. They could be used for discussion questions. But short answer is yes, same basic format as the other little booklets, My Baptism Story and My Relationship with Jesus. All right. Scrolling through fast. I apologize if I missed a question. I will go back through there and see if there's anything I missed. Like I said, I'm missing my button to share my screen to show you that music video. But trust me, there's a sample on the website. So if you go to the website, there's downloadable samples of all the different sections and things that I've shown you. You actually get the whole first week on there as a sample. So you could look at 7 or 8 different prayer stations that we have for week 1. Check that out. And there's also a sample of the worship video. All right. Any other questions popping up? Way over with my notes. Got those. Super cool. All right. Does that pretty much cover it? I feel like I talked super fast. Because I was talking super fast. All right. Cool. I'll go back through these comments. If I missed a question that someone asked, I apologize, and I will answer them here in the next few minutes. And if you have anything else, throw it on there, and I will answer those as well. And thanks for tuning in on 11 o'clock on your Thursday mid-morning. So hope you're having a great day. Enjoy your ministry. Enjoy your Thursday. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you around, all right?